I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are accompanied by many associates, such as Vishwaksena. I offer all the paraphernalia for worshiping you. One should chant this mantra every day with great attention while worshiping Lord Vishnu, with all paraphernalia, such as water for washing his feet, hands and mouth, and water for his bath. One must offer him various presentations for his worship, such as garments, a sacred thread, ornaments, scents, flowers, incense, and lamps. Srila Prabhupada gives a very short purport to this verse. This mantra is very important. Anyone engaged in deity worship should chant this mantra, as quoted above, beginning with Om Namo Bhagavate Mahapurushaya. Text number 8. Harishesham chajuhu jat anale dvadashahuti Om Namo Bhagavate Mahapurushaya Mahavibhuti Pataye Swaha Iti. Translation to text number 8. Sukadev Goswami continued, after worshipping the Lord with all the paraphernalia mentioned above, one should chant the following mantra while offering 12 oblations of ghee on the sacred fire. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahapurushaya Mahavibhuti Pataye Swaha. Text number 9. Now we can all chant together. Shriyam Vishnu Chavarado Shriyam Vishnu Chavarado Ashisham Prabhavo Ubhau Ashisham Prabhavo Ubhau Bhaktya Sampujayen Nityam Bhaktya Sampujayen Nityam Jadichet Sarvam Sampadam Jadichet Sarva Sampada. Devotees. Sridham, the goddess of fortune. Vishnu, Lord Vishnu. Cha, and Baradau, the bestowers of benedictions. Ashisham, of blessings. Prabhavo, the sources. Ubau, both. Bhaktya, with devotion. Sampujajet, should worship. Nityam, daily. Jadi, if. Ichet, desires. Sarva, all. Sampadaha, opulences. Translation: if one desires all opulences, his duty is to daily worship Lord Vishnu with his wife Lakshmi. With great devotion, one should worship him according to the above-mentioned process. Lord Vishnu and the goddess of fortune are an immensely powerful combination. They are the bestowers of all benedictions and the sources of all good fortune. Therefore, the duty of everyone is to worship Lakshmi Narayan. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lakshmi Narayan, Lord Vishnu, and Mother Lakshmi are always situated in everyone's heart. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Vidashe Arjuna Tishtati. However, because non-devotees do not realize that Lord Vishnu stays with his eternal consort Lakshmi within the hearts of all living entities, they are not endowed with the opulence of Lord Vishnu. Unscrupulous men sometimes address a poor man as Daridra Narayan or Poor Narayan. This is most unscientific. Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi are always situated in everyone's heart. But this does not mean that everyone is Narayan, especially not those in poverty. This is a most abominable term to use in connection with Narayan. Narayan never becomes poor, and therefore he can never be called Daridra Narayan. Narayan is certainly situated in everyone's heart, but he is neither poor nor rich. Only unscrupulous persons who do not know the opulence of Narayan try to afflict him with poverty. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pasyatadeshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, today, this part of this Pumshavana ceremony, or rite, described here. Before, there were some descriptions about Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. But now Vishnu is being described, for the prayers, or the section of the prayers, are addressing Lord Vishnu. And of course, like throughout the Bhagavad philosophy, one of the qualities that it's often emphasized is that Krishna is the owner of everything. He's the source of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, one of the essential texts, that I am the owner of everything. So, the context of this particular section, this is towards the end of the 6th canto, is that the Lord gives us protection in different ways, right? According to the acharyas, there are, as you know, 10 different topics that Bhagavatam explains: creation, subcreation, consequent creations, and things like that, which have been already described. Srila Prabhupada says in the beginning of the 6th canto, in the summary of the canto. And he says that the aspect of poshana, or protection, is being described in this. But when we read the context, the historical context of this pastime, it's quite, in some places, convoluted. You know, what happened with Indra, and then, you know, Britasura comes into the scene, and then, you know, Chitraketu, and all these things. But behind all these pastimes, it's how the Lord protects his devotee. That's the essence, we may say. Now, it is very interesting in this section because the prayers refer to Lakshmi and Narayan. And Lakshmi, when we hear about Lakshmi, we're talking about opulences. We're talking about money. We're talking about facilities, etc. So it is very important because we all have something to do. Although some of you may be very, very renowned, still you have to deal with some aspect of Lakshmi, energy, money, facilities, etc. Doesn't matter how renowned you are. Even if you're totally renowned, still you have to deal with this energy, right? So, a very important, if not decisive, aspect of our spiritual life is exactly that. How do we deal with energy, the energy of Krishna? I think it's in a previous verse, Prabhupada explains that when the energy of the Lord, Lakshmi, it's separated from Vishnu, right? Although she is a spiritual, she becomes the illusory energy. It's transformed, right? So how is it, how amazing it is that this same energy, Lakshmi, the energy of Krishna, becomes Maya, right? How is that? No? Srila Prabhupada explains, very simply, if you just take away Vishnu, right? If you take away Krishna, then the same energy becomes Maya, becomes the illusory energy. And you know, Prabhupada gives this analogy that if we have zeros, many zeros, and if we take the one out of it, then the zeros, doesn't matter how many zeros you have, it's all zero. Doesn't mean anything, right? Or no value. But if you just put one, in front of all those zeros, then you have so much, right? So we all have some kind of energy. Some have talents or beauty or knowledge or friends or influence, so many things. And if all these things are devoid of Krishna consciousness, then they are just a waste of time, waste of everything. What's that verse? Haritoshanam, samsiddhi haritoshanam. Yasista, punyas. Yeah? Haritoshanam, yes. That the purpose of everything, right, in essence, I'm paraphrasing, that we do is to samsiddhim haritoshanam, that the sum of all perfections is that Krishna is pleased. At the end of the day, that's the bottom line test, that Krishna is pleased. That's all. I remember reading some old Vyasa Puja books, Srila Prabhupada's appearance day, and I remember, I forgot which year it was, but 80 something, And I read several of the senior disciples' offerings, and many of them, coincidentally, or the BBT had arranged it in such a way, but several of them, maybe 3 or 4, end up craving for that, for Srila Prabhupada's smile. That the offerings were like that, you know. That all what the devotees wanted to do when Srila Prabhupada was present, I mean, Srila Prabhupada is present, but I'm referring to those memories of those devotees, is that anything they did was just to obtain a smile from Srila Prabhupada. Right? That was it. If Prabhupada smiled, meaning he was happy, he was pleased, then everything was okay. Everything was perfect. Samsiddhi Haritoshana. Because the representative of Krishna has been pleased. So in the same way, here we are trying, in many cases, imperfectly to please Krishna, to please the representative of Krishna, but I assume many of us, we do struggle. Or at times we struggle. Sometimes we're doing okay, but then we struggle. I remember that when I just arrived to India many years ago, I was a young brahmachari, enthusiastic but very ignorant. I asked one devotee, you know, because at that time, my understanding is that whoever was living here then must be very, very advanced. And so I asked one friend, I said, Prabhu, sometimes I'm very enthusiastic and sometimes I'm very not enthusiastic. And then he told me this. I think Krishna spoke through him. He said, that's a symptom of a neophyte. So he patted me. He says, so it's okay. That's confirmed. You're a neophyte. I had a few years in Krishna consciousness, but I thought, you know, in those days, you had 2-3 years in the movement and you were like already like a senior or something. But it has taken me nearly 30 years after that, and still I'm struggling with the same things. So, the Bhagavatam has the purpose of, Prabhupada explains, see Krishna in every page. That's the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we ask, why all these mantras and processes presented here, the purpose is that, to understand that the energies of the Lord need to be engaged in the service of the Lord. And we are, Prabhupada also mentions this, I forgot where, if it's further or before. Prabhupada says, we are also energy of the Lord. Do you realize that? I mean, theoretically, we may realize it, but, you know, we are energy of the Lord. Yeah? We are parts and parcels of Krishna. I mean, if we think about this, it can create some kind of impression in our consciousness. We are parts and parcels of Krishna. We can maybe say that out loud and think about it for a few minutes and write our realizations. What does that mean? You know, that everything that I do, everything that I have, everything that I wish for, it's meant to be connected with Krishna in order for it to be satisfying. That's what it means. But how many of you, of us, live up to that? I mean, we all read it. How many times we heard it? Thousands of times, perhaps. But how much can we actually apply? That's the question. So here we are, gathered, just like the sages of Naimisharanya, hearing about Krishna. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, the beautiful narrations about Krishna, just like Bhagavad Gita, the song of Krishna, right? Where we also hearing about him. We're hearing about him. Because the process is, the more we hear, what happens when you hear? Your heart becomes purified. Your heart becomes clean. So, as Prabhupada translates, the misgivings, right? The misunderstandings, right? Because the core misunderstanding is that, I mean, one of them, I am this body, aham mameti, no? That's one misunderstanding. Right? Another misunderstanding is that everything that I can perceive is meant for my enjoyment. Maybe not everything, but at least those things that I focus on and I say, I want that, and I want him, and I want her, and I want this, and I want that. So that is the natural tendency of the conditioned soul. Right? And it's better to admit it from the beginning. Right? So some of you, some of us may have had some kind of inclination for spiritual life, philosophical inclination of sorts. But I don't know your experience, but when I read Prabhupada's books, what shocked me is that he was so convinced of what was our condition. Right? Prabhupada called you a fool, just like Krishna called Arjuna a fool in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. So in the same way, you are a conditioned soul. You are trying to enjoy like an animal. It's pretty heavy. You expect. Nowadays, you can read so many flowery words around spirituality, and everything is about love and this, that, the other. No, Prabhupada, it's very direct, right? Like a surgeon. He just goes to it, goes to the tumor and tries to remove it, right? A lot of blood and a lot of, gory details. But he goes in there and gets the thing out, right? And when that is completed, you feel good, right? You get a beating, you read Prabhupada's books, and I used to argue so much. I mean, mentally, right? No this, no that, and how can he say that? No, he's contradicting himself. I was just trying to look for faults in all what Prabhupada said. I was reading the abridged version of the Bhagavad Gita, remember? And I was like literally having like a mental or philosophical wrestling match. But Prabhupada was, strong, and it was making sense. It was making sense, right? So at the end of it, you feel good because he had removed this misunderstanding that you are the enjoyer, right? You are the enjoyer. No different from an animal. Because the animal is thinking the same thing, but you're just sophisticated, right? You go to university, you go to college. Like Prabhupada says, instead of running in 4 legs, you're running in 4 wheels or 2 wheels. In Mayapur, you have the big bikes, and then, So we're running around thinking, I can enjoy, I want to enjoy, but I shouldn't, right? Because Bhagavatam says, Prabhupada says. So this is the dilemma, the neophyte dilemma. That a neophyte doesn't mean 2 years in the Bhakta program. Neophyte may mean a few lifetimes for us. So going back to the presentation of the Bhagavatam here in the 6th canto, one of the first things that we need to understand, and I know that in some circles, sometimes it's not pleasant to discuss these things. Even it happened in Prabhupada's times. To discuss Krishna's philosophy as it is, right? Sometimes, and Prabhupada warns us, that sometimes we want to jump onto the Leelas. Prabhupada says about reading Bhagavatam, sometimes we want to jump onto the 10th canto, pastimes, rasa dance and things like that. You want to skip the beginning parts, all the creations, sub-creations, and all these things, right? Also, I heard sometimes some of my friends said, oh, why so much Bhagavad Gita? Why so much philosophy? Why don't we go to the nectar and the rasika and these kind of things? But as we know, Srila Prabhupada was very emphatic, very emphatic. One time Prabhupada was giving a class, standard class, I guess. And generally in Prabhupada's class, he will often, if not always, mention the fact that we are not the body, right? Often here. You're not the body, you shouldn't lament, etc., etc. It's a standard class. And a devotee walked out, right? Maybe one of the close servants or, I don't know, administrators of a temple or something. And then Prabhupada notice it. And then after, when he went to his room and the devotee came in, he says, "Why did you walk out?" And the devotee said, "Oh, Prabhupada, I heard, like, when you go to a class, to grammar class, mathematics or something, and then there's a subject that you already heard, right? You heard it many, many times. You already did the lesson, did the homework, did the test. So I don't need to listen." Yeah, sometimes we. So the devotee said, "Oh, I heard, I saw where the class is going, so no." Prabhupada didn't like it. So, "No, you haven't heard, you haven't understood. So you have to listen." Prabhupada didn't like it. Prabhupada didn't like devotees walking out of the Bhagavatam class. So, why? Because we need to understand. We need to understand, and we think that we understand. If I ask now how many of you read the Bhagavad Gita, I'm sure many of your hands will go up. Right? How many of you read Bhagavad Gita? There you go. But how many of us have really understood? And I'm not daring you, I'm not challenging you, I'm not questioning your advancement. I know that many of you obviously are very, very advanced. But I can say in my case, I read many times the Bhagavad Gita, I teach Bhagavad Gita, I preach Bhagavad Gita. But how much I have really understood? I mean, not just for 10 years, and after I retired about it. No, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. But every single day of my life, forever. How much? That's the test. And one thing that ISKCON has is that we have plenty of examples of people who knew Bhagavad Gita, right, in other scriptures, and then they left. They fell, they had problems, etc. So we are very lucky that many of our fellow devotees, seniors, superiors, previous, they did what is right, and also many did what is wrong. So we have to learn from those examples, right? Like when you go to these halls, like companies or sports or something, then you have the pictures, right, of the presidents and the founders and CEOs or whatever you see, yeah? So in the same way, we have the good pictures, and we have some other pictures of what examples we shouldn't follow. So the purpose of this is that we drill into ourselves, we tattoo it somewhere in our consciousness that Krishna is the owner of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Aham sarva. Everything comes from me, and we also come from him. Right? And when Krishna presents this in the Bhagavad Gita, you see, the first section of the Bhagavad Gita is all about you. Yeah? You realize? The first section of the Bhagavad Gita is all about the jiva and the processes that the jiva can take to be free from all these lamentations and suffering. That's the first section. The middle section is all about Krishna. Krishna's opulence, Krishna's form, Krishna's devotional service, right? It's all about Krishna. First part, second part. And the third part, it's about how to manage the energies, how to deal with the world. That's why one of the main topics in the third section of the Bhagavad Gita is the modes of material nature. Right? So energies, again, energies is very important. So it's all about energies. Right? So Krishna is the source of those energies. He's the energetic, as Prabhupada describes. And how do we deal with those energies that belong to Krishna? That is the trick. That is the point of this explanation. Now, I think there's a sign that the class should be finishing now, 8:25. So, how does this apply in our life? How do we I'm sure that all of you have some takas, as they say here. So when we see these pieces of paper and all what it means, or pieces of plastic, right? How do we manage that? Even to have the body, it's an opulence in itself, because you can do so many things, right? You are able to work, you're able to do so many things. But what do we do with those energies? How do we manage that? Yeah. So, and it is important. And another proof that it is important is because it's the first thing that Krishna says about himself. The 7th chapter, how is it called, the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita? Knowledge of the Absolute. Yeah. And what is that knowledge? The last verse. Right? The last verse explains Adidhaiva, Adijagya, Adibhuta. I am the supreme owner of everything. Adibhuta. Adidhaiva. I am the supreme manager. Daiva means that the devas are managing. So much management we talk of, in Mayapur we hear a lot about management. Oh, the managers did. Oh, why management doesn't do that? Oh, management. Adidhaiva. I am the supreme manager. And Adijagya. Right? I am the supreme who everything has to be sacrificed to. Everything has to be given to him. That's what he says. Adidhaiva, Adijagya, Adibhuta. The first thing that's his credentials. This is who I am. I'm the owner of all what you see, of everything that you can even imagine. I am the owner of you. That's what Krishna is saying. And I'm the maintainer, and I'm the controller. And everything has to come to me. Right? Everything has to be offered to me. That's what Krishna says. Quite a blunt presentation. He doesn't go around the corners. He's just like straight. Right? So why? Because if we understand that, then we have it right. This is how it is. As it is. That's why Prabhupada named his Bhagavad Gita as it is. So, in this process, it's true. Sometimes we struggle with it. But then what we have to do when we struggle, we just have to go back to the basics. And what are the basics? Krishna is the owner. Krishna is the controller. Krishna is the enjoyer. Right? So all what I do should be in line with that. And when we suffer, and when we are confused, and we have some problems of any kind, then we have to go back to the, what's it called? Troubleshooting. Right? Like at the end of the manuals, troubleshooting. What do you do? Right? So that's what we need to do. We need to understand who is the owner here. Who's the enjoyer? Right? And then once that it's clear, then things start falling into place. Then what I have to do. It's simple. That's why Prabhupada often call it scientific. Even here he says, to call Narayan Daridra, which means poor, is most unscientific. Yeah, Prabhupada like that word. Scientific. Yes? Because it doesn't make sense. Right? It doesn't make sense that Narayan is all of a sudden poor. This is just flowery words again to describe some kind of misunderstanding, religious misunderstanding, especially in India. Oh, he's the poor. Okay, so people who help the poor, they are so spiritual. Right? That's Naridra Narayan. We know that. That's common here. So, the point in these verses, the point in this chapter, is that in order for us to obtain Krishna's protection, we need to have the right understanding. And this is the beginning, or is it a prelude to Prahlad Maharaj's pastime, right? We are getting ready for that. Right? So sixth canto is finishing, 7th canto is about to start, and then we will see the true protection manifested, full on. Right? Why? Because anything that happened to Prahlad Maharaj, we're just giving you an advanced peek view. Right? Anything that happened to Prahlad Maharaj, he saw Krishna. Jomam pashyati sarvatra. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, those who see me in everything. Sometimes we think Krishna is only, and that's also described in Bhagavatam, the neophyte thinks Krishna is only on the altar. I forgot the verse. Getting rusted, my Sanskrit. What's that verse that, the devotee who only see Krishna on the altar, but he doesn't see the devotees. He only see Krishna in the altar, but he's a materialistic devotee. Right? What's that? Chaitanya Charitamrita? Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's good to have pandits around. You don't need so many of these things. It's called for a pandit. Prabhupada used to do that, right? What's that verse? You gotta read out. So like that, it's sometimes we think, oh, Krishna is only there. Krishna is only in my Shila. It's only in my altar. It's only there. Go there, here. You know, whenever you're walking there, many of the visitors always ask you, Mandir Kotai, this and that. You have to tell them like this. So Krishna is there. Right, so we think that Krishna is just here. I mean, he is there, but he's also everywhere. And the last point I wanted to make is that for us devotees, and in regards of the energies, and in regards of the opulences, one important thing is that for us practitioners of a spiritual life, we have to see that Krishna's opulence is through the devotees. Krishna gives these chatur slokis in the Bhagavad Gita, of which you may think, if I have to give chatur slokis about my life, I will talk a lot about myself. But Krishna, when he gives his chatur slokis, he talks about the devotees. If you notice, those 10, 8 to 12, right? 8, 9, 10, 11, sorry. He talks about the devotees. First he says, you know, something about himself, but then he talks about the devotees. So the opulence, the real opulence of Krishna are the devotees. You know, so we want to experience the opulence of Krishna, the power of Krishna, then go to the devotees. See how the devotees live. You know, Aishwarasya Samagrasya. Krishna says, I have 6 opulences. No, Krishna says, it's referred about Krishna in Vishnu Purana. Right? These are the 6 qualities. Who is Bhagavan? That's described there. So see how the devotees live. Right? And that doesn't mean that the houses have to be like so big and everything has to be so, but the happiness that the devotees obtain. Right? You see devotees who are very, very simple. They are very happy. Happier than many millionaires around the world. Is that so? Right? Do we believe that? Or we just, it's like a slogan. The devotees are very, very happy. People are working so hard for so long, generations after generations, to obtain happiness, to become rich so they become happy. But a devotee very simply serving in whatever capacity, whatever area, devotional life, he or she is very happy. So that it's opulence, right? That's the opulence of a devotee. And that's why Krishna glorifies the devotees. So, in our endeavor, if we want to become happy, because that's natural for us, Ananda Mayo Vyasat, then we learn from the devotees. You know? You're not so happy with your life or your spiritual life. You're lamenting a little bit like Arjuna. Oh, I don't want to do this service. This is too much. You know, I have to fight with this one. It's my, you know, we joined together and now I have arguing with him and these people are saying this and I have to, you know, whatever situation you're in, right? Just see those devotees who are happy. I see many here in Mayapur, Prabhus and Matis, they look very, very happy. They're doing their service every day, day after day, year after year. They look very blissful. So when we come to Mayapur or when we go to the holy dhams, we go to the temples, we associate with devotees, we don't come to see only, you know, how big the temple is or how opulent the TOVP and how vast this property, etc. We come to see the Vaishnavas, right? There's also a verse, sorry, I have to admit I forgot, but that verse that if somebody goes to the holy place only to take bath, it's no better than a... There you go. So you know everything. So we come here to see the opulence of Krishna, and the opulence of Krishna are the devotees. This is the opulence of Krishna. How many people, Prabhupada had turned from, I'm sure not many of you were hippies, but that's what he said, from hippies to happies. Right? So being happy, that's the true test of opulent. Not how many credit cards we have or bank balance or savings or buildings around. Because that doesn't really guarantee you being happy. When you utilize Krishna's energies properly, then you're happy. Yeah, that's priceless. I think there's a credit card who uses that. Priceless. So being happy, it's priceless. There's no price. There's no currency that can buy that. Only bhakti. Bhaktyamam abhigyanati. Right? And we have the perfect example, and with this we finish. I heard this from Devamrita Swami in one of his lectures. He said that Prabhupada wanted to be rich. He was giving a class in Australia. I was living there. I was working very hard, trying to be rich so I can be happy. And I can do my service peacefully, and everything will be perfect. I was totally wrong. And I heard his class, and it was right what I needed. He said Prabhupada tried all his life to be rich. Not all his life, but before dedicating fully to preaching, to his missionary service. He wanted to be a businessman. He tried here, he tried there. He went traveling around India. He was working very, very hard. Imagine Prabhupada, very meticulous, very diligent. But still he didn't make it. One thing failed, one other thing failed. Yeah, failure after failure. You know, you get these, particularly American stories, you know, failure after failure, and they become super millionaire, right? Right, isn't it? But Prabhupada failed after failure, failure after failure, failure after failure. And then he said, nah, he wanted to be rich so he can preach Krishna consciousness, yeah? How many of us are thinking of that? Oh, once I'm rich, then I can go and live in Mayapur and do this, everything, and whatever. So Prabhupada tried all these things, he failed. Right? And Maharaj said, Prabhupada wanted to be a successful businessman, but Krishna turned him into a beggar. Right? So when he said that, it didn't go well, right? Because and why I say this, he said, because Prabhupada signs his poem when he arrived to America, "You're insignificant beggar." Yeah? So Maharaj was explaining that a full cycle of pastimes and lessons Srila Prabhupada was manifesting, was displaying, that he tried so hard. And apparently he failed. And when he admitted, okay, you know what? I just take $7, right? Or the equivalent at that time. Take my Bhagavatam, first canto, 3 parts, a pair of cartels, a couple of pictures, Panchatattva, and another picture, I think. And off he went. That's it, you know. And he signed, an insignificant beggar. I'm not anymore the big manager of this company or wanting to do, no, I'm just insignificant beggar. So Maharaj's point was, until we come to that realization, I have nothing. I try this, I fail. I try that, I fail. So many things I fail. So I'm nothing. I want to serve. As Prabhu was saying 2 days ago in the class, quoting Bhagavatam, Nimitra Babasya Vasachin, just become an instrument. And then everything works. Why? Because you're happy. Right? Okay, so we're meant to end here, since the class now is shorter. Still we're over time. If there's any questions or point, yes. I think there's a mic. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. In the class you mentioned of the energy of Krishna. And I want to ask if everything is actually the energy of Krishna. So when we go outside the temple, I feel very bad. I mean, I don't, but it's Krishna's energy, there has to be like,
So when you say about the energy of Krishna, when you go outside the temple, you don't feel good. Okay. So, what is the question? Don't go outside the temple. Stay in the temple. Maybe Krishna wants you in the temple, wants you to do something. Sometimes Krishna arranges. He's very cunning. He knows what to do. Sometimes he makes us feel, I've been in places, believe me, I thought I was in paradise, but then my experience was very miserable. And I thought I'd rather go back to the temple, go back to Mayapur. So sometimes Krishna arranges like that. Maybe that's, it could be partly your misunderstanding. It could be partly, that Krishna wants you inside the temple. Maybe he's telling you, stay in the temple. Outside, maybe not good. Sometimes that happens. Many people experience that, actually. You're not alone. Many people leave ISKCON. Have you read those stories? Prabhupada disciples, they left. After Prabhupada left, oh no, ISKCON is not the same, this, that, the other. So many. I mean, I don't know. I have read many. and then they come back, they had some realization, or they get sick, or this, the other, and then they come back and so appreciative, and so stay in the temple. What can I say? I mean, if you want to see other things, then we have to read more. We have to, or if we go, also Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says that. What does he say in regards of staying in India? What did he say? If we live outside, it's just for preaching, right? If we just go out, the temple or the dham, it's just for preaching, But how many of us really are just going out for preaching like that? Anyway, any other question, comments, corrections, chastisements? No, it's all good. Okay, Gantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari.